Your business, your rules. Grow a business that works for you. This is the HerBusiness Podcast. Hey there, welcome to the HerBusiness Podcast. I'm Suzi Dafnis, and today we're talking about something I think every business owner experiences, but not many of us are able to admit it out loud. And that's the feeling of soaring 1 minute and wondering what on earth is going on in the next minute. And one of our darling members, Fran, said something recently that struck me. And she said, I have times when I'm soaring and times where I feel like I'm getting nowhere. And I read that and I thought, yep, that's being a business owner. So some weeks you feel like a genius. Clients are saying yes, your ideas are flowing, you're convinced that you should probably write a book or speak on more stages. And other weeks you're staring at your laptop thinking, do I have a clue what I'm doing? And if you've ever had that moment, you're in very good company, because in this episode, we're going to talk about why those cycles happen. We'll talk about how to tell the difference between what's simply a hard week and what is real burnout that we need to take care of, what alignment actually feels like in your business, and what to do right now if you feel less like a CEO and more like you're just trying to keep the wheels from falling off. Excuse me. Because if that's where you are right now, it's probably that you're in a transition point in your business. And transitions can be messy, but they're also where the most meaningful growth can happen. So when I feel like I'm getting nowhere, it's rarely because I'm doing nothing. In fact, it's usually the opposite. It's that I'm doing a lot of things: emails, projects, strategy sessions, mentoring sessions, thinking, rethinking things, planning. But the difference is that I'm doing activity where I can't see traction. And it feels like I'm pushing a very big wheel, a heavy wheel, up a hill. And so you're definitely pushing, but the wheel is not particularly impressed by you. And when that happens, internally, the chatter can sound something like, is this even working? Should I be doing something different? Oh, look, that's what my competitors are doing. Or why does everyone else look like they've got this figured out and I don't? And of course, they don't all have it figured out. We're just looking at what I like to call each other's highlight reels while we are managing our behind the scenes, right? Behind the curtains, it's kind of messy. You know, when all we're seeing is the front of stage. And here's something I've learned over the years working with thousands of women business owners. Those cycles of soaring and stagnation, they're actually very normal. So when you're in a soaring phase, you're often harvesting momentum from seeds that you planted months, sometimes years earlier. And when you're in that frustrating nothing's happening phase, you're often in a planting season. Sometimes I feel like I've been in a planting season for eons, right? And that planting season is not glamorous. It looks like effort without applause. No one's going, wow, this is amazing, let me buy your thing. But often it's the exact work that needs to lead to the next step. And speaking personally, I have been in this planting season, feeling like nothing's happening for 18 months now. Knowing that who I've become is different to who I was, knowing that the business I want and what I want it to look like and how I want to help women is different to what it was 2 years ago. And so I've been planting. And some days it feels like I'm just spinning, in a hamster wheel. Not from a point of, oh, this is routine and rote, nothing's changing, but more from, I am planting, I want to harvest. Can this happen faster? So maybe you understand that too. And I want to talk about burnout, because there's a difference between planting, wishing things were different, having a hard week, and actually experiencing real burnout. Because a hard week looks like you're tired, your brain might feel a bit foggy, you look at what you have to do today and you think, I just can't do all this. But underneath that, you still care about your work. You're still committed to your passion, to your vision, to your mission. But burnout feels different. Burnout is more like feeling emotionally totally depleted. This is where you feel numb about your business, or you feel so cynical about the work that you once loved. You're questioning whether you're making a difference. You feel trapped instead of feeling challenged in a way that excites you, or you're losing that sense of purpose that once drove you. And the biggest signals is that rest is not enough. When you're in burnout, you can take a break, you can come back to things, you can have a good night's sleep, and the same heaviness is still there. And that's often because the real issue isn't just exhaustion, the real issue is misalignment. Something about the way your business is structured, whether it's the model, the clients you're working with, the offers that you're making, no longer fits who you are now. And just a couple of episodes ago, I shared with you where that had happened to me. Something I'd been working on for 10 years, which I absolutely loved, and I absolutely loved the people, had become misaligned. It started to feel heavy. And that was just because who I need to express as right now, the sort of work I want to do, the types of women that I want to help, the challenges that those women are happening is different. And so I've been realigning myself to be helping women who are leaders, who want to start leading differently, who want to step into a way of leadership that has them not be the bottleneck of everything, not have everything coming back to them. So that is a very different type of person than perhaps I have served in the past. So we want to make sure that what we're working on and the business we have is one that we are aligned with. And one of our members, Alexis, she said something I think is really powerful that I want to share with you. She talked about experiencing burnout after years of pushing through business structures that didn't work for her, particularly because she's navigating autism and ADHD. And her recovery actually involved therapy and rest and redesigning her days of work with her mind and her body working with them rather than against them. And I think this is a really important conversation because many business owners build businesses by copying models they see working for others, whether they're launch models or agency models, retainer models, membership models, retail models, content models. And sometimes those models work for a while, but eventually you realize that the business you built needs you to operate in ways that don't match your natural rhythm anymore. And so a question to ask yourself is, where am I constantly forcing myself? Where is it where I go, ugh, every time I think about doing that thing, or where you find yourself procrastinating every single time because you don't really want to do it? And that is usually a clue. Another powerful question is, if I were building this business from today, would I design it this way? That is a really powerful one. If I were building this business from scratch today, would I design it in this way? And sometimes the honest answer is probably not. And if that is the case, that is okay. There's just a gap between how you're operating now and how you would operate if you were designing it. But know that you can totally make that change. It might take steps. It might take getting mentoring and support. It might mean joining a program. It might mean getting some coaching. But you can totally make that shift. And having that awareness is the first thing. Now, on burnout, a lot of people assume that burnout means that you need to do less. But I've noticed something interesting with myself. Often the real issue isn't that you're doing too much. It's that you're doing too much of the wrong things. And so alignment doesn't mean fewer hours. It means that the work you're doing is creating energy instead of draining your energy. And you can spend an entire day doing work you love and long hours and feel totally energized, but you can spend 45 minutes writing an email that you don't want to send, and it can feel like I have to lie down now. So the question becomes not how do I do less, but how do I do more of what actually moves the business forward in a way that lights me up, in a way that works for me. And I'm asking you sort of deep questions, but these are the questions that I love to ask. These are the conversations I love to have with women in the HerBusiness community. Because becoming aligned is a very distinct feeling. It shows up as clarity and feeling like, for lack of a better word, clean energy. When something is aligned, your decisions feel much easier. Your momentum will build more naturally. I'm just going to turn this notification off so it doesn't beep at us. You feel more decisive. You're not constantly pushing yourself uphill. But misalignment, on the other hand, tends to show up as procrastinating, overthinking, feeling heavy, feeling resentful towards certain tasks or clients or team members, or that heavy feeling of dragging yourself through another day of work. And so a simple exercise is asking yourself 3 questions. What work consistently gives me energy? What work drains me every single time? And what impact do I most want to make right now? And alignment usually sits somewhere in the intersection of these things. So Fran, who I mentioned earlier, also mentioned something else that I think that most of us rely on, and that is that beautiful feeling of checking something off a list. So tick, our brains love that tiny little dopamine party. But there's a difference between being busy and creating momentum in our business. So I like to think of work in two categories: maintenance work, the things that keep the business running that we just have to get done. I often call it Admin Fridays, is the days I do most of that work. And then there's momentum work, and that's things that are actually moving the business forward. And so if your whole week is maintenance work, you can feel really productive, you can have lots of check marks on your to-do list, but the business isn't necessarily growing. So we want to make sure that we are combining momentum actions with maintenance work. And maintenance work is often things that we can actually leverage. So you want to keep putting yourself in the space of doing at least a couple of momentum actions every week to keep you connected with the bigger picture of where you want to take your business. Now, I love answering here on the podcast questions that my members are asking. And so one thing, or commenting on comments they make. So one of our members, Denise, she shared something really honest in a recent discussion. And she said, I feel like I'm drowning. And I know I've had that feeling for sure. And many business owners have that moment. When someone feels like they're drowning, the answer is not to try and fix everything immediately. The first step is to create breathing room. So that means pausing new projects, simplifying your offers, extending timelines where you can, asking for help and support, or really stepping back to reassess your priorities. And then asking, what is the one thing that would make everything easier if I did it right now? Not 10 things, just one thing at a time. We really need to simplify when we're in that place of feeling like we're drowning, because that overwhelm, it loves complexity. But real self-leadership, it starts when we start reducing complexity again. That is something I'm on a mission to do. And through all of this, and this is a conversation we've been having a lot inside of our community over the last 2 weeks, is a conversation about identity. Because the biggest shift that we need to make if we want to step into a different way of running our businesses and leading our businesses is an internal shift. Because sometimes we are operating from the identity of the hustler or the overgiver or the perfectionist, I'll put my name next to that one, or the person who does everything themselves. But for your business to evolve, you need to evolve too. So the version of you who started the business may not be the version of you who needs to lead it today. So a powerful question to ask is, who do I need to become to lead the next chapter of my business? Growth in our businesses is rarely just about doing new things. It's about becoming the next version of yourself as a leader. So I'm going to put a link inside of our show notes over at herbusiness.com/351 to a new course that I'm creating from the day this episode goes live to the day we start. It's actually a very short window. So if you catch this before we go live, then definitely take action. It's called the Leadership Lab, and it is for established business owners who want to lead differently. They want to stop being the bottleneck. They want to know how to delegate better. They want to know how to make decisions without second guessing themselves. They want to know how to communicate with team members, contractors, everybody, clients, in a clearer, more authoritative way. They want to show up as a leader in their industry. And you can learn more about that at herleadershiplab.com. It's ridiculously inexpensive because I want it to be very accessible to women. And you can go ahead and join now at herleadershiplab.com. Now, the other thing that helps with decision making is having some white space in your life. And so that means time where you can pause and actually think. And so I was thrilled to see this review for episode 330, which is called Why White Space is the Secret to Getting Unstuck in Business. And it was Davina Borrow-Jones from the Mumpreneur Lawyer. She specializes in drafting contracts and reviewing agreements to protect business owners. And she said this when she listened to the White Space episode. She said, "This resonates. As a lawyer and business owner, I used to wear my packed calendar like a badge of honor." Me too, Davina. "Until I realized I was operating in reaction mode rather than building strategically. Nowadays, thinking time gets its own calendar day." And I love that. And that speaks to what we talked about here in this episode. You want that white space to be able to make those decisions, to say, if I was building this business from scratch, would I do it this way? And it's not too late to make those changes. So if you are in one of those seasons right now where it feels like nothing is moving, please know that you may not be stuck. You may be in that period like me of planting seeds. And planting seasons are quiet, and sometimes it can take a long time to see a harvest, but it's also where we create the next version of our business. So if you want support, ongoing support in a community of like-minded women, I want to invite you to join us inside Her Business. It's a community specifically for women business owners, and you can head over to herbusinessnetwork.com now to apply. And if you want a summary of today's episode and links to anything we've referenced here, head on over to the show notes page at herbusiness.com/351. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Her Business Podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. You can direct message me on Instagram. You'll find us at @HerBusiness, or you can share it with another woman business owner who might need to hear this reminder today. Or you can do us the biggest favor and leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. That would mean so much to me. It means that we get this important message out to as many women as possible. So thank you so much for being here. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I know it's a one-way conversation, but I'm hoping that the questions I asked sparked some thoughts for you. So join me next time for inspiring stories and lessons from successful female entrepreneurs. The next episode is actually a fantastic interview. So if you don't already follow the show, click follow or subscribe wherever you listen. And I'll see you next week right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.